The door was sealed with 7 different locks, each key held by a different member of the royal family, and for good reason. Because in the 400-year history of Chateau de Vansen, not a single servant who entered the Shambhala Antit had ever come out alive. Not one. What you're about to discover is the most terrifying room in European history. A chamber so horrific that French kings would rather burn the entire castle down than reveal what was inside. This isn't just another tale of medieval cruelty. This is the story of a room that consumed human souls, and why the French Revolution started with breaking down its door. 1364, Chateau de Vansen, France. King Charles V orders the construction of a special chamber. Not for guests, not for storage, not for ceremonies, for something else entirely. The builders who construct it are executed upon completion. The architects who design it disappear without a trace. Even the stone masons who lay the foundation are found dead in the Seine River. Someone wants this room's secrets buried with its creators. Today, I'm taking you inside the most forbidden space in royal history. We'll discover why servants would rather face execution than enter this chamber. How French kings used it to maintain absolute power for centuries. And what revolutionary forces found when they finally broke down those 7 locks. Because some rooms aren't just built to keep people out. They're built to make sure no one ever leaves. The construction of horror. Charles V doesn't just want a room. He wants a secret, a place where the most dangerous enemies of France can disappear forever. Not through execution, not through exile, through something worse. The chamber is built in the castle's deepest basement, 20 feet underground, surrounded by solid stone. No windows, no natural light, no connection to the outside world. The walls are 3 feet thick, soundproof, screamproof, the 7-lock system. The security isn't just about keeping people out, it's about making sure no single person can access the chamber alone. 7 locks, 7 keys. The king holds one, the queen holds another, the dauphin gets the third. The remaining 4 go to the most trusted members of the royal council. All 7 key holders must be present to open the door. This isn't paranoia, this is insurance. Because what's inside that room could destroy the monarchy if it ever got out. The first victim, 1365. 1 year after construction, a servant named Pierre Dubois is caught stealing from the royal treasury. Normally this would mean hanging. Instead, Charles V has a different idea. Pierre becomes the chamber's first test subject. 7 key holders gather at midnight. The locks click open one by one. Pierre is pushed inside. The door slams shut. The locks engage. Pierre's screaming lasts for 3 days. Then silence. When they open the door a week later, Pierre is gone. Not dead, gone. No body, no bones, no trace he ever existed. Just an empty room and the lingering smell of something unspeakable. The servant selection process. Word spreads quickly through the castle. The Shambhala Antit is not a prison. It's something else entirely. Servants begin disappearing regularly. Always the same pattern. A minor infraction, a small mistake, a moment of defiance, then the midnight summons. The 7 key holders, the opening of the locks, and another human being vanishes from existence. The castle staff lives in constant terror. One spilled wine cup could mean the chamber. One overheard conversation could mean the locks. One wrong look could mean disappearing forever. The recruitment of fear. Charles V discovers something interesting about the chamber. It doesn't just eliminate enemies, it creates perfect servants. The mere threat of the Shambhala Antit turns rebellious staff into obedient automatons. Servants work harder, complain less, never question orders, because they all know what happens to those who displease the king. The chamber becomes the ultimate management tool. No need for wages or benefits, just the constant threat of vanishing into that soundproof room. The royal family's secret. But here's what the servants don't know. The chamber isn't just for punishment, it's for experimentation. Charles V has become obsessed with alchemy, not the gold-making kind, the human transformation kind. He believes he can discover the secret of immortality by studying how people die. Slowly, methodically, scientifically. The chamber becomes his laboratory. and servants become his test subjects, the alchemical apparatus. Inside the chamber, Charles V installs equipment that wouldn't look out of place in a modern torture museum. Restraining tables with leather straps, pulleys and weights for stretching limbs, braziers for heating metal instruments, vats of acid for dissolving evidence. But the centerpiece is something truly horrific. A glass coffin filled with unknown chemicals. Servants are placed inside while still alive. The chemicals preserve their bodies while slowly eating away their minds. Charles V takes detailed notes on how long consciousness lasts, how much pain the human brain can process, how terror affects the dying process. The logbook of horrors. The king keeps meticulous records. Every experiment is documented. Every scream is timed. Every death is analyzed. The logbook becomes a catalog of human suffering. Subject 23, kitchen maid, age 16. Survived 4 days in the preservation solution. Maintained consciousness until hour 73. Interesting vocal changes noted. Subject 31, stable boy, age 19. Responded well to heated metal application. Begged for death after 6 hours. Granted request after 48 hours for comparison purposes. This isn't madness. This is methodical scientific cruelty. The succession of secrets. Charles V dies in 1380. His son, Charles VI, inherits the throne and the chamber. At first, the new king is horrified by what he discovers. He orders the room sealed permanently, but then he faces his first major rebellion. Peasants uprising, nobles plotting, enemies everywhere. Suddenly, the chamber doesn't seem so horrific. It seems necessary. Charles VI reopens the locks. The experiments resume. The madness spreads. Each successive king inherits the chamber, and each one becomes corrupted by its power. Louis I uses it to interrogate suspected traitors. Charles VIII experiments with new forms of psychological torture. Louis XII develops techniques for extracting information from dying minds. The chamber evolves with each monarch. New equipment, new methods, new horrors. But the result is always the same. Servants go in, nothing comes out. The servant underground. By 1500, the castle staff has developed a secret network. They warn each other about dangerous assignments. They create alibis for minor infractions. They even establish escape routes for those marked for the chamber. But the network has limited success. The chamber's appetite is insatiable. It needs fresh subjects for the king's experiments. And there are always servants who make mistakes, who trust the wrong person, who simply have bad luck. The revolutionary discovery. July 14, 1789. The Bastille falls. Revolutionary forces storm Chateau de Vansen 3 days later. They're looking for political prisoners. Instead, they find something much worse. The 7 keyholders are captured, forced to open the chamber at gunpoint. What the revolutionaries discover inside defies description. The chamber revealed. The room is larger than expected, multiple chambers connected by narrow passages, each one designed for different types of experiments. The preservation room with its glass coffins, the dissection room with its blood-stained tables, the observation room with its detailed charts and diagrams, and in the center, the collection room. Hundreds of jars filled with human organs, each one labeled with a name, date, and experimental notes. The revolutionaries find evidence of over 800 victims, 4 centuries of systematic murder, all in the name of royal science. The logbooks of hell. The revolutionary forces discover the complete records, every king's experiments documented in detail, every victim catalogued and analyzed, every scream transcribed and studied. The logbooks fill 47 volumes, each one more horrific than the last. They read like a manual for human destruction, written by kings who saw their subjects as laboratory animals. The public revelation. The revolutionaries make a crucial decision. They publish excerpts from the logbooks. Not all of them. The complete records would drive people insane, but enough to show the French people what their kings really were. The reaction is explosive. Riots break out across France, not just against the current king, against the entire concept of monarchy. How can anyone trust a system that produced such monsters? The destruction. The revolutionaries try to destroy the chamber. They smash the equipment, burn the furniture, pour acid on the walls, but the room resists destruction. The stones are too thick, the construction too solid. So they do the next best thing. They seal it forever, not with 7 locks, with concrete and steel, the cover-up attempt. Napoleon tries to suppress the chamber's history. He orders all copies of the logbooks destroyed. He executes anyone who speaks about the experiments. He even tries to demolish the entire castle. But the story is too big to contain. Too many people know the truth. The Chambre Interdite becomes a symbol of royal corruption, a reminder of what absolute power really means. The modern investigation. 1987. French archaeologists gain permission to excavate the sealed chamber. Using ground-penetrating radar, they map the room's contents. What they find confirms the revolutionary accounts. Human remains, experimental equipment, preserved organs, all exactly where the logbook said they would be. The chamber is real. The experiments happened. The servants really did disappear. The psychological profile. Modern psychologists studying the logbooks identify a pattern. Each king who used the chamber became progressively more sadistic. The power to make people disappear corrupted them completely. They started with criminals and traitors, then moved to servants who made mistakes. Finally, they began selecting victims at random. The chamber became an addiction, a need to exercise ultimate control over human life. The servant testimonies. Hidden in monastery archives, historians discover something remarkable. Testimonies from servants who escaped the chamber selection. Their accounts provide chilling details about life in the castle. We lived in constant fear. Any day could be your last. The king would point at someone during dinner, and they would simply vanish. We learned not to ask questions, not to look too closely, not to remember the faces of the disappeared. The worst part wasn't the fear of dying. It was the fear of being forgotten. The chamber didn't just kill you. It erased you, like you never existed at all. The final count. Historians estimate that over 800 people disappeared into the Chambre Interdite. Servants, prisoners, political enemies, random victims, all fed to the king's insatiable appetite for human experimentation. Their names are recorded in the logbooks, but their bodies were never found. The chamber consumed them completely, leaving only documentation of their suffering. The Chambre Interdite represents the ultimate corruption of absolute power. It wasn't enough for French kings to rule their subjects. They needed to own them completely, body and soul, life and death. The chamber gave them that power, and it drove them insane with the possibilities. 800 people vanished into that room over 4 centuries. Each one a human being with hopes, dreams, families, all sacrificed to royal curiosity and sadistic experimentation. The French Revolution didn't start with economic inequality or political oppression. It started with the discovery of what their kings really were. Monsters who saw human beings as laboratory specimens. Tyrants who built chambers of horror in their own castles. The Chambre Interdite is sealed forever now, buried under tons of concrete and steel. But its lesson remains. This is what happens when power becomes absolute, when rulers stop seeing subjects as human beings, when the powerful believe they own the powerless completely. The chamber is gone, but the capacity for such evil remains, waiting for the right conditions, the right ruler, the right moment to build new chambers of horror. What disturbed you most about the Chambre Interdite? The systematic experimentation or the complete erasure of victims? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to explore more hidden horrors of history, subscribe and hit the bell. Because the past is full of secrets that powerful people don't want you to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next investigation.